Well, hello and welcome to Speed Feed. Thank you so much for joining this live broadcast. We're talking about the latest in news and trending topics here live on Facebook and YouTube, as we always do. And this is where you get to know everything that's trending right now in news and other trending stories. Yes, you are at the right place, my friends, because you will be informed with pretty much everything that's happening around you today. And you can follow our main stories here on the feed. And before we get on the speed feed here on the stories, because it's a big news day and many things are unfolding. The BBI discussions are being held both houses of parliament, but then there's also David Murathe. We had another story about him. I'll be telling you about that. I'll give you both when we talk about David Murathe, but he's trending right now because he's appearing before the Public Investments Committee of Parliament to answer questions on his involvement in the KEMSA scandal. He says he was one of the bank signatories to one of the companies that benefited from a tender from KEMSA. But that's why he's trending right now, and I'll tell you why Kembe Gitura is trending in just a second, and also other stories that are making news today. So, yeah. Remember, we are live here on Facebook as we go on talking about the news. Let me know where you're watching us from. I'll be reading your comments at the end of the show. So let me know in the comment section. Let's talk as we, talk about the stories that are trending today and what else you need to know. Let's start with our first item on the speed feed today. President Uhuru. This is the biggest story today. He has disbanded the entire board of KEMSA and appointed a team of 5 people who will be heading the medical supplies body. And at the same time, he also revoked the appointment of former Murang'a Senator Kembe Gitura as the chair of the KEMSA board. So there's a lot of reorganizations that has happened right now, and it's still unfolding. So that's a very big story right now. And the other one is about Murathe, but I'll be telling you more about that in just a few, because he is at Parliament and, more is unfolding. Remember last week, David Murathe sent an affidavit, saying that he was a signatory to bank accounts of a company called Kilig Limited, which benefited from a KEMSA tender. But meanwhile, other stories are happening. This one is very interesting. So a 17-year-old boy was arrested and arraigned in court yesterday for, guess what? Wearing police uniform and posing as a police officer and stealing from a warehouse. So police in Meru were doing a patrol at night, and they met the teenager together with an older accomplice, and the two threatened the cops because, how they do it. They were trying to act like police, but then the real police met them, and there was a bit of an altercation and the police fired in the air, but then the two of them were arrested and they were arraigned in court yesterday. This one is from Meru, and this one follows that expose by Citizen TV, the guns galore expose that everybody was talking about last week, and now this happens in the backdrop of that. So it's, one thing is tying to the other. But let's talk about the Huduma card. Remember the Huduma card? That document that is supposed to replace the national ID? Well, turns out that people haven't been very keen on collecting their cards, even after being notified by the government to do so. For example, in Murang'a County, the county commissioner says that the county has received 50,000 cards that are supposed to be collected, but only 5,000 have been collected. And this is despite residents being sent text messages to go and collect them. And he now has given them 5 days to go and collect their cards. Seems like a lot of people are not keen on collecting the Huduma cards because the ID cards are still functional, but the government said by the end of this year, we'll be using Huduma cards. Nationally, though, only 10% of the 37 million registered citizens have collected their Huduma cards. So again, that's another story that, set in the conversation. Huduma cards. And some of you have been making jokes about Huduma cards, and some of you did not even register for the Huduma cards. You will have a chance to do that, but that's a document that's supposed to replace the ID card. Meanwhile, so a suspected heroin trafficker in Voi was forced to swallow 4 sachets containing the drug after being ambushed by detectives, and she was rushed to hospital for examination. But after the police searched her house, they found more sachets. I don't know why I keep saying that. Sachets containing heroin. So what was the point of her swallowing if she knew she had more stuff hid in her house? What was the point? Seems like a rookie drug trafficker to me. But she was arrested. And now she's gonna have a case to answer. Now, this one happened yesterday. There was drama at the Senate, because Meru Senator Mithika Linturi was arrested as the discussions of the BBI were going on. So the senators threatened to stop discussions in protest of Linturi's arrest, which was under unclear circumstances. And of course, the senators later addressed, they addressed this matter in the House, and he was asked to explain what happened, and he narrated the ordeal and said that he went back to his house and found detectives with guns at his gate. And he also said that he was summoned to appear before the DCI today. It's unclear on why he was being arrested, and it's still developing. We're going to know why he was being arrested. But the other senators came to his defense, and they said, the police were intimidating him. Interesting. This one's for all of you who are watching from, the Gulf countries, Saudi, and, there's a lot of Kenyans who are in the Middle East, and I know most of you follow what's happening in the country, especially via Facebook, and I would like you to comment if you're watching from the Middle East right now. The story for you here, because if your passport has expired, the Kenyan embassy in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia announced that it will start processing passports for Kenyans living in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, and Iraq. So if your passport has expired or you need to renew it, you can now access these services at the Kenyan embassy in Riyadh. But the embassy has cautioned, though, that the process might take time, because they need to set up the infrastructure to produce this. And there was a bit of comments on this one, on this particular story, on the Kenyan embassy in Riyadh. I'm just gonna get it for you right now. And some people are saying that there were other in other embassies in Washington and also in London. They have opened these services, but it takes time. They opened these services in 2017, but no passports have yet been issued. So again, with this issue, you have been cautioned that it might take a while before you start to renew your passport or get a new one at the Riyadh embassy in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. Meanwhile, let's talk about other things that are setting the conversation. And this one has been a big one, because Justice Martha Koome was nominated to be the next Chief Justice. But 2 issues have been raised so far after her nomination. One has been raised by MPs, and it is the issue of regional balance in the running of government. And some MPs have raised concerns that the executive, the legislature, and judiciary are headed by people from the same region. The executive is headed by the president, who's from Central. The legislature is headed by Speaker Justin Muturi, who's also from Mount Kenya. And now the judiciary is said to be headed by Martha Koome, who's also from the Central region. And the second one has been, the release of the criteria that was used to appoint Justice Martha, because there is a petition by Professor Makau Mutua that is meant to compel the JSC to release the scores of the other candidates. But the JSC announced the appointment of Justice Martha Koome before this particular petition was heard. So there's those 2 issues. They're saying we don't have a problem with her appointment, but then we also need to see what did the other candidates score. One of the other candidates, Senior Counsel Fred Ngatia, had also said that he was rigged out of the process. And so people are demanding that, the JSC release, the scores from each commissioner on how much they gave to each of the interviewees for this particular process. But the JSC, though, says that they are not obligated to release that information. Now, still on appointments and other things, people who are getting new jobs in government, the ground is prepared now for interviews to appoint new IEBC commissioners to happen. You can see this group of people here. This is a 7-member interview panel that was sworn in yesterday. And they said that they will announce applications for the vacant positions of the IEBC for a 14-day period after they advertise the vacancies. So they have set the timelines. So up to May 24th, that is when they're supposed to conduct it. And they said that they will also have a 7-day period after. So this is what's going to happen. They're going to announce the vacancies. They're going to advertise the vacancies. And then Kenyans will have a 14-day period to apply to be in the IEBC commission. And then after that, they will have a 7-day period for Kenyans to give their views on the suitability of the people who will have been shortlisted for that. And as you know, with Kenya and government processes, it takes time. But this commission, this particular panel says they are able to do that within those timelines. It's ambitious, but they say they can do it. Let's talk about other stories, and still on this one's development and other things that are happening. So KDF is being involved in the renovation of JKIA. So the Engineers Brigade water drilling squad, you can see them here. They were drilling 2 wells at the airport to improve the water supply at JKIA, because JKIA has been having a shortage of water because 2 of its main boreholes were not operational, but KDF has renovated them. And also, Kenya Airports Authority began a renovation exercise that's going to cost 963 million shillings at JKIA, and it started in January this year, and KDF is being involved. And speaking of renovations and KDF, they're still involved in another upgrading exercise. This is from Kenya Railways. They're also involved in renovating 31 trains. Yeah, you can see them here. They're renovating 31 trains to increase Kenya Railways' capacity to operate the Nairobi-Kisumu route, whose railway track is being renovated at the moment. Right? Remember, we are live on Facebook. There's some of the stories that are happening. Just giving you an overview of what's happening, people are talking about right now. I have 2 things to address when it comes to Jubilee Vice Chair David Murad. There's an interesting story that we found out, and it's gotten a lot of traction on Kenyans.co.ke on our website. And I want to tell you about that, and also the other reason why he's trending today. But meanwhile, I know most Kenyans are facing hard times right now. And one Kenyan who is going through it is former Nakada Chair John Mutudho, who at the moment he has gotten temporarily relief because a court stopped his house in Satellite, Ruta, from being auctioned by a bank. So he had borrowed 9 million shillings from a local bank, but he was unable to pay. And so the bank wanted to auction his 8-bedroom house, which is worth 20 million, so that they can recover their money. But he went to court to stop the auction, and the court has stopped the auction until the matter is heard and determined. If you thought you were alone, so many people are in that boat. Now, also let's talk about TSC, because TSC CEO Nancy Macharia was in Parliament yesterday, and she was put to task about 2 issues. One of them is the fact that TSC has been operating with only 2 commissioners since 2020. This is because 7 out of 9 commissioners had retired, and the MPs questioned her on why she did not notify the president. So the second issue was, which could be related to the first, is a delay in negotiations for teachers' pay in a collective bargaining agreement, a CBA. So the MPs say it has taken so long for this to be resolved, and it could have been caused by a lack of quorum in the TSC, because 9 members are required to make the important decisions by the commission. But on her side, the CEO, Nancy Macharia, said that it is not within her mandate to notify the president when commissioners retire, and the lack of quorum at TSC did not affect the running of the Teacher Service Commission. Now, let's talk about David Murathe. Probably the biggest news maker of the day. He is speaking to the Parliament's Public Investments Committee, and there have been moments in this particular questioning. He's been talking about his role in Kilig Limited. This is a company that got a 4 billion tender to supply PPEs to KEMSA, and he's been questioned, and there's a variety of issues that have come up here. There were moments in the exchange between him and Abdul and the chair of this committee, Abdul Samad, who who felt like David Murathe was not responding respectfully to his questions. So you can get on Twitter right now. We also have it live here on Facebook, so you can watch it as it unfolds, and you can also follow more details about that on Kenyans.co.ke. But meanwhile, there's another story still about Murathe. This one is from the archives. One of our journalists here, Derek Kubasu, who's a fantastic guy, he went through, now since a lot of people did not know David Murathe because he wasn't exactly the news figure that was on the front lines. A lot of us got to know him in the last 2 years because of his role in the BBI. But then there's this particular video here that is going to show you how long he has been involved in Kenyan politics. So apparently he was one of the people who was detained at Nyayo House, and in this interview here by K24, he explained how he stayed at Nyayo House for about 80 days, and just listen to how he described his experience. Just a little part of it. You can go watch this, but it's very interesting. Just listen to it.
To the basement, and this time they don't take you to your dry cell. You go to an empty cell, then they start splashing you with water. And you can imagine water coming from the 24th floor, the pressure. You feel like it is needles piercing into your body. And they would beat you there until the water was ankle deep. And then they'll lock you up and leave you there to the basement.
He also talked about his, that's quite interesting. So go watch the interview. If you love politics and news and interesting political figures and interesting newsmakers, that's probably something that I found interesting about David Murathe. It's unrelated to what's happening today because now he's talking to the Public Investments Committee of Parliament about a whole different issue. He has a case to answer because he was a signatory to bank accounts of a company that got a 4 billion tender from KEMSA. And meanwhile, President Uhuru has disbanded the board of KEMSA and appointed 5 new people who are going to be on the board of KEMSA. That's an interesting news item. But now, talking about interesting stories, also, this one is interesting. I feel like we should be doing this more on the show because now that we're heading to elections, to the general elections, we need to know some of these people who are running and interesting stories. So there's an interesting story about Moses Wetangula. Did you know that the Bungoma senator was once a magistrate? In fact, he was appointed as a magistrate immediately after completing his law degree at the University of Nairobi, but he resigned a year later and went into private practice. And when he went into private practice of law, he was defending some of the soldiers who were accused of being involved in the 1982 coup. and he even represented Hezekiah Ochuka. But he was later recruited in President Moi's legal team, even though he was defending soldiers who were accused of trying to overthrow Moi's government. Very interesting. Yeah. Now, I'm getting no ideas on this show. I will be telling every week. I'll be giving you a historical moment. Yeah, something about political figures. And now that we released the list of top 100 politicians, you might appreciate why some of these political figures have had a long career in politics and why they're important to politics. Now, is it a good idea? I think it is. I think it is. Let me know in the comment section. I'm reading your comments, just a few. Should I read your comments now before we talk about this last one? Yeah, it's not such a big one, but yeah, so let me read your comments anyway. Felix, do you know who was Kenya's second vice president?
James something?
Yeah?
James something?
The second vice president of Kenya?
Yeah.
Who is he?
Okay.
Exactly, and this is why we need to do that segment on political figures. Yes, we need to know our history in politics, especially because it's very important. I know some of you are going to be voting for the first time in the next elections, and this segment is going to be dedicated to people like Felix, my director, who does not even know who was the second vice president of Kenya. Anyway, let me ask you, what is the most... Okay, that's a bit hard. So let me just ask you this one. In 1992, there is a big shift that happened in Kenya. What was it?
Multi-partyism.
Oh yeah, he knows that. He knows that. At least he knows multi-party democracy when multi-party democracy was introduced. And who is one of the people who was involved in the fight for multi-party democracy in Kenya, and he's a senator today?
Wow. James Orengo?
Yes, James Orengo. He's getting this one. So yeah, interesting. So I'm just trying to get views on why this is going to be important. So yeah, we're going to create that segment in this show. You guys are giving me new ideas. Let me read your comments here on Facebook. Seeing that a lot of you are watching us on Facebook right now. Let's see some of your comments. I'm going to tell you about the last story here. This one about this one. Yes, about luxury car smugglers. Yeah, there's quite an interesting detail in that story. Nairobi Mentor saying you're streaming from Huruma. How you doing? My people's from the Nairobi County. Streaming from Huruma. Roddy says add 5 more minutes. Murathe would have been beaten up. Oh yeah, you're talking about the exchange between Murathe and MPs at the Public Investments Committee. Yeah, saying add 5 more minutes and Murathe would have beaten up an MP. It was quite heated. Yes, it was very interesting. Watch it, and yeah, check out the videos on Twitter right now. There's so many moments from that exchange at Parliament. Now, Brian says we should stop looking at tribes and gender. If people are qualified, they are qualified. To some extent I agree with you, to some extent I don't, because also Kenya is a country of 44 tribes, and one of the challenges that comes with having so many communities in a country is that at some point some people will feel disenfranchised. So it's good when there is representation, because people and this is in the constitution. This is not even something that is that people are just saying for the sake of it. It's in the constitution, and the matters of regional representation in the running of government. And I'm sure the BBI has addressed some of these issues, and this ones will come up as the MPs continue to discuss the BBI in Parliament. Someone else says you're watching from Doha. Rodi, you're saying you're yet to get an SMS to go for your Huduma card. Did you apply for your Huduma card? Have you applied for a Huduma card? Have you gotten a text? Because like if you're in Murang'a, there are 50,000 Huduma cards that are yet to be collected, and now your county commissioner has given you 5 days to go collect your Huduma card, or else He didn't say what's going to happen if you don't, but go collect it if you got a text message to go take your Huduma card. Now, the last story here is quite interesting, and the reason why it's interesting is because this I was not aware of this, that there is a high-end car smuggling syndicate that operates between Uganda and Kenya. Now, it involves cars being stolen from Uganda and being sold to Kenya to unsuspecting customers. You don't know that your car has been stolen from Uganda and also other countries because the import fees in those countries are cheaper. So it's cheaper for them to, smuggle those cars from Uganda and bring them into Kenya. In fact, the most interesting part about this story is because there's an SUV that was stolen from Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni's motorcade, and it was sold to someone in Kenya, and the vehicle was recovered a year later. It's quite interesting. So yeah, be very careful when you're doing when you're buying a car, especially if you're buying an SUV. I'm not a car expert, so I wouldn't be able to give you details of how not to get caught or how not to buy a car that has been stolen. But just get someone who you can trust. But this is quite interesting. You might be buying a car that belongs to the president of Uganda, and that's not something that has not happened. It has actually happened. That's a true story. Very interesting. Anyway, thank you so much for watching Speed Feed. Someone else is here. Dennis, you're asking, Kimani, how are you? When can we have an interview with you? Yeah, you're saying you're a trade. Dennis Sagala is a trade unionist. He Labor Day to go in an interview concerning workers' issues. Yes, we're also doing something for Labor Day. Please hit my DM. Yeah, on Twitter. On Twitter, you can follow me at I am Kimani Mbogo. Talk to me on Twitter because my Facebook DM has a lot of messages, so I might not be able to see it. But DM me on Twitter, then we can talk about that. Roy is saying you did not apply to get a Huduma card, Huduma number. I still remember that slip. I have it. That's Huduma number application slip. I do not know what to do with it. But I guess the government has my number now. They can text me and tell me when my Huduma card is due. Yeah, but I've also been seeing some people saying they got a text to pick their Huduma cards far from where they live or far from where they registered to collect them. So probably that's an issue that's going to come up. Anyway, that is what is setting the agenda today. So what people are talking about. Just a recap, the biggest news story of today has to be KEMSA. The board has been disbanded and new people have been appointed by the president to run KEMSA. David Murathe also trending for the same reason because of his involvement in the KEMSA scandal. Babu Eno is trending because of connections that happened during that interview. Kembe Gitora is also another person who people are talking about because he's the president. The president has revoked his appointment to be the chair of the KEMSA board. And Kilig Limited is a company that it's trending because it's said that David Murathe was a signatory to bank accounts of Kilig Limited. Yes. So, and Mary Chao Mwadime is trending because she is going to be the new chair of the board of directors at KEMSA. So those are some of the news items that are trending, and KEMSA is definitely the big news item of today. It's not even the BBI. It's now turned, the news day has turned around. Now we are talking about KEMSA and David Murathe. Thank you so much for watching Speedfeed. Thank you for always coming here and we talk about the trending stories and trending topics and news that are happening around you. Asanteni sana. We'll see you again tomorrow. Same time, same place. My name is Kimani Mbogo. Goodbye.